Alrighty, welcome you guys to the next deck tech. Today we're doing our deck tech for an old school Gorgon who was actually at one point used in the World Championships, if you could believe it, way back in 2003. This card is long forgotten, but one of my favorites, and has kept me in Magic for almost as long as Olivia Voldaren has. So let's get into our deck tech for Visara the Dreadful. Alrighty, well let's start things off by going over Visara the Dreadful herself. She's a 6 mana comprising 3 and 3 black pips for a 5/5 legendary creature Gorgon. With flying and tap, destroy target creature, it can't be regenerated. Now while the it can't be regenerated is becoming more and more irrelevant, as time passes, one thing that is not becoming irrelevant is tap, destroy target creature. While this effect in the old school days would draw a lot of hate and a lot of removal, I find now in the modern landscape of Commander that it actually just simply holds up. Now, Visara the Dreadful is of course going to have eyes on her, and we are going to have her eyes on everyone else. Now that we know what she does, let's see what the rest of the deck does to back her up. Now, as we said, all eyes are going to be on Visara, so we're going to want to make sure that she can withstand the glare of our opponents. So we're going to be supporting her with Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots to ensure she has haste at a moment's notice, and can't be targeted by her opponent's spells and abilities. Plus, we're also going to be supporting her with a Commander's Plate and Mithril Coat. Commander's Plate in this deck offers the absolute best amount of protection possible from Commander's Plate, and Mithril Coat is a flash speed way to give our Commander indestructible. But we're not limiting her goodies to things that can just simply protect her. We're going to be backing her up with a 1000-year Elixir and Sting the Glinting Dagger as well, as both of these are redundant effects to allow our Commander to untap to continue to tap to destroy stuff. But we're not sticking to just artifacts either in terms of Visara support, as we also have Machias the Unhallowed and Beacon of Unrest here to make sure that if our commander is dealt with, we have her back whenever we need her. Now by this point, you guys know I don't like to sit here and talk about Soul Rings and Arcane Signets, but there are 5 cards in terms of mana ramp that I want to discuss, starting with Dream Devourer and Liliana of the Dark Realms. While Dream Devourer doesn't technically count as ramp, he basically allows us to pay 2 to foretell stuff, which will, in theory, reduce their costs by 2 for our future turns. And Liliana of the Dark Realms will allow us to hit our land drops and eliminate creatures in a way that Visara can't, with -XX. In addition to that, we're running the Moonsilver Key and Jeweled Lotus combo, as I like to call it. That way we have redundant effects to grab our Jeweled Lotus that is absolutely necessary for Visara, as she does cost 6. I also run Mana Volts, and of course, in a Monoblock deck, if you're not running Jet Medallion, what are you doing? Now worry not, my friends, worry not. The whole deck does not require Visara to be in play in order to function. We're in fact running quite a suite of Monoblock powerhouses in the deck to help Visara pack the punch that she maybe is not able to close out on. Starting with Massacre Worm, Midnight Banshee, Sheoldred the Apocalypse, Grey Merchant of Asphodel, and Bolas' Citadel. All powerhouse cards in their own right, either by straight up killing our opponents with Grey Merchant and Sheoldred, or withering away our opponent's board states with Massacre Worm and Midnight Banshee. And hey, if we don't have a board state of our own, Bolas' Citadel will be quick to fix that. Now, one of the best parts of being in Mono Black is that we have access to Commander's most notorious suite of tutors, with Vampiric Tutor, Demonic Tutor, and the always political and slightly debaucherous Wishclaw Talisman. These 3 cards will allow us to have whatever we need at a moment's notice, and always ensure it's the right tool for the job. But it's more than about having just the right tool for the job, it's about having just tools in general. So cards like Ancient Craving and Black Market Connections will allow us to draw cards. Plus, Harvestal of Souls, a 6 mana 5/5 demon with Death Touch that reads whenever another non-token creature dies, you may draw a card. Speaking of creatures dying, we have quite a few effects that like it when creatures die, such as Blood Artist, Archfiend of the Dross, Grave Betrayal, and Black Market. Now I want to take a moment to discuss the Archfiend of the Dross, a 4 mana 6/6 flying Phyrexian demon that enters the battlefield with 4 oil counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove an oil counter from Archfiend of the Dross, and then if it has no oil counters on it, you lose the game. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, its controller loses 2 life. The only reason I would run the risk of running this in this deck is because Visara allows us to remove it at an instant speed. Plus, this thing being a 4-mana 6/6 flyer is huge for swinging trades in the air. And it's honestly just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Let's also just go ahead and take a moment to talk about some of the lands in this deck. Now, while of course we're running mostly just basic swamps, we are running, of course, the Urborg and Cabal Coffers combination, plus Command Beacon, Tyrite Sanctum, and Witch's Clinic, all different ways to support Visara, either by putting her back into our hand from the command zone when she's gotten expensive, keeping her from being put back to the command zone with Tyrite Sanctum, or using Witch's Clinic to swing our life total back. Plus, Shizo Death Storehouse will allow us to give a legendary creature fear until end of turn, making sure that as long as our opponents don't have an artifact or black creature, we'll be smacking them in the face. Now, because our commander is who she is, we aren't running as many removal effects as you might typically see, but we do have some, such as Dismember, Deadly Rollick, and Toxic Deluge, as our commander will not be able to deal with problematic hexproof or problematic indestructible creatures. In addition, we also have Feed the Swarm to hit the enchantments Visara cannot, and Invoke Despair to send one opponent crackling to the ground or giving us lots of cards in the process. And lastly, I just want to take a moment to talk about some honorable mentions that I really just was not sure where to fit in elsewhere. Starting with Professor Onyx, the only planeswalker we have in the deck that truthfully could probably be Liliana Dreadhorde General. I just gosh darn love Professor Onyx. She's a 6-mana, 5 loyalty planeswalker with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. With the +1 loyalty of you lose 1 life, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. -3 loyalty, each opponent sacrifices a creature with greatest power among creatures that player controls. And a -8 that is basically a Torment of Hailfire for 6. In addition, we're running Erebos, God of the Dead, Injunji, the Midnight Sky. Plus, Nirkana Revenant and Cryptghast to turbocharge our mana. Imp's Mischief to protect our commander by paying 2 for an instant that reads, change the target of target spell with a single target. You lose life equal to that spell's mana value. And lastly, but certainly not least, we're running Rise of the Dark Realms. If we're going to go through all this work with removing our opponent's creatures, the least we can do is use them to kill our opponents with, right? Well, congrats you guys, you made it to the end, so as always, you should probably like the video, maybe even subscribe. No, definitely subscribe to the channel, because again, I'm a small content creator, and you can be like, hey, I got in on SaltNPetty when he was at less than 1,000 subscribers. That's gonna be really cool for you and for me, so I think we should both make that happen. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and you can check out some more videos right now.